Hi, this is Michael William Denny of the ThunderWizard.com YouTube channel, and today I want to talk to you about the Vikings TV series, the History Channel Vikings series. I want to share with you some absolutely colossal blunders that these people made in terms of historical inaccuracies. Now, of course, there are a lot of inaccuracies, and I understand it's a television show, so I understand that they have to, do things like create false character connections, and they have to play with, timelines, and they have to add drama, and they have to, maybe have people look a certain way so that people will want to watch it. I understand that. That stuff I understand and I'm totally okay with. But some of these things are absolutely, the inaccuracies are completely unnecessary and absolutely unforgivable. And it shows the limitation of a lot of historians. Some of them just can't think very deeply. Now, at the end, I'm going to share with you something that you will not find in history books. And that is the reason why the Vikings erupted seemingly out of nowhere and swept across Europe in such a ferocious way. And it has to do with the last stand of the last major pre-Christian tribal polytheist indigenous religion. It was making its last stand as the civilized, Romanized globalization of Christianity started completely swallowing up Europe. So we'll talk about that at the end. But first, let me talk to you about some of the things I really liked about this show. So the first one is that it's very clear to me that the writers and the producers have a very honest and sincere intention to give across a very real feeling of what it was like in pre-Christian Europe. And they're very, the primal feeling, the primal tribal shamanic feeling about it. I love that. I love that they're honestly trying to portray that. And I also like that they put a lot of attention to the pre-Christian Norse mythology, and that they draw heavily from the surviving Norse myths. And especially if you know what the mythology is, you can see that reflected in so much of what they do. If you're not familiar with it, it might just you might miss some of the things. But for some of us who really love Norse mythology, it's really wonderful to see that portrayed in real life ways, in ways that we can imagine might have happened. Of course, I love watching any kind of gratuitous violence, especially when you've got some Vikings fighting some Christians. That's a lot of fun for me to watch. So of course I enjoy all of the fighting. Being a martial artist, I love watching that. And who doesn't like looking at hot Viking chicks, and the idea of being a Viking king and having multiple hot Viking shield maidens at your service. Who doesn't like that idea? So now let me talk to you about the inaccuracies and some of the things I couldn't stand. First off, in the beginning, I almost couldn't stand watching this. It got better, but the first couple of episodes really pissed me off. And that's because in the very beginning, they start with this assumption that the Vikings were completely clueless as to what was around them. That this idea that they didn't know where England was. I mean, trust me, they knew where England was. It wasn't like they were setting off into unknown, into the sea. They knew where England was. So when they set off for England, they knew exactly where they were going. So please, there was no mystery about that. That really drove me crazy, that they were these stupid, ignorant, backward barbarians that didn't know what was, 5 miles outside of their land. It's just ridiculous. Of course they knew where England was. The other thing that really bothered me still, and the same thing, is when they land on England, they can't communicate with the Anglo-Saxons. So let me be really clear. And, actually when you listen, because when they go back and forth between different languages, when they go back and forth and you hear them speak Old Norse and then you hear them speak Old English, it's almost the same language. In fact, Old Norse and Old English were so similar that that's where we get modern English from. Modern English was heavily influenced by the Norse Vikings who had invaded and colonized northern England, and they were trying to speak with the Anglo-Saxons, and the Anglo-Saxons were trying to speak with the Norse, and so the language got so simplified, and that's why we have modern English is very simplified compared to when you listen to things like German and Norse and things like that, and you know, that's where it came from. So they could have completely understood each other. The accents might have been a little different. There were obviously some differences, but they could have easily gotten past that very quickly. So the idea that they couldn't understand each other was just so ridiculous and annoyed the hell out of me. Here's something that has to do with, you know, they're trying to, you know, they're trying to make a show, and it's a television show, but what is with the blind seer? What is with that guy? I mean, that it looks like something out of, you know, Game of Thrones, which is fine with me, but that's what that is. This is supposed to be historical. What the hell is that? You know, they had wizards, they had priests, they had gothies, they had people who were completely devoted to the gods, who were completely devoted to ritual. And so this idea that they have to have this blind guy and, you know, licking of the hand, what the heck is that all about? Crazy. That's so stupid and unnecessary. You can get all of the feeling of the mystery and all of the feeling of, you know, that goes with wizards, that goes with shamans. You know, they had those people. You didn't have to make up this blind guy with, you know, no, you know, whatever. You didn't have to do that. And the last thing about the show that bugs the crap out of me that I wish they'd get rid of is the stupid accents. I mean, you're obviously doing this in English, and you've got a bunch of American actors in there trying to do a really bad pseudo-Norse accent. I mean, it sounds stupid. Just talk, you know? Just talk. I don't care if some of the people talk and have an English accent and some of the people talk and they have, you know, a Norwegian accent and some of the people have an American or an Irish. I don't care about that. Just talk. It's in English. Just, you know, I can tell when somebody's trying to do a fake accent, and it bugs the crap out of me, and I wish they'd stop. But anyway, those are some of the things that I don't like about it. So now let me get to the really cool part about this. And now when you watch the show, you can bring this understanding into it. And if you want to, go back and watch it from the beginning with this understanding, and this will even give some greater depth to why the Vikings were so fierce in their hatred towards Christianity and why they attacked England to begin with. So have you ever thought that? You know, I mean, when you look at the history books, you know, we talk about this, and I'll put the link at the end. There's a video I talk about, you know, were Vikings barbarians or were they freedom fighters? See, here's the history behind all this. Before the Vikings attacked the monastery in England, the Romans and then later the Christians, especially the Holy Roman Empire, had been assaulting and slaughtering Northern European indigenous polytheist shamanic culture for 400 years, something like that. The Roman Empire came right up to the border of Germany there, and they were continuously keeping the non-Christians and the non-Romans out of the equation. They would enslave them. And the Holy Roman Emperor, Charlemagne, who's supposed to be this great, wonderful, you know, founder of European civilization, the man was responsible for a huge Holocaust in Northern Europe. And the Verdun Massacre was a time when the Frankish king, Charlemagne, Charlemagne sent a peace envoy to Saxony. Now these indigenous Saxon tribal, shamanic, polytheist people, they were more than happy to be part of the Holy Roman Empire. They just didn't want to give up their traditional indigenous spiritual path. And so they were fighting. So Charlemagne was fighting with them, trying to bring them into the Holy Roman Empire, and the only thing that was keeping them from doing it was that they didn't want to convert to Christianity. he sent a peace envoy. Now, it's important to understand that in the traditional culture of the tribal Germanic people, whenever you call for peace, it is against spiritual law to bring weapons to a peace meeting. And so when the Holy Roman Emperor sent his armies to this peace meeting, there were hundreds of these tribal chieftains, these tribal Germanic chieftains, and they didn't bring any weapons with them because it was a peace meeting. And what happened was that Charlemagne's armies surrounded them, forced them to convert to Christianity, and then killed them. And according to the historical records, the rivers ran with the blood of the slain. It was just a horrific massacre. Now, this happened only a few years before the Viking attack on the monastery in England. And so what we're not seeing in the history books, because the Vikings didn't write down history in history books, what we're not seeing, and what most historians, in fact, I don't even know of any historians who are aware of this, who've made this connection. Just a few years earlier, the Christians had slaughtered the last Germanic polytheists in Germany. And these guys are just a few miles right across from Scandinavia. Now, all of these indigenous tribal Vikings in Scandinavia are sitting there realizing that at any moment in time, these armies could sail across into Scandinavia and do the same thing to them. Now, for hundreds of years, the Christians and the Romans had ostracized these people, had enslaved these people, had kept them out of any major trade with Europe. And now that Christianity was taking over, anybody who wasn't Christian wasn't able to do business. So these people were really on the fringes of society. It must have been very difficult for them, not to mention it must have infuriated to know them that to know that their cousins just across, maybe they even had relatives who were killed in this massacre, had been forced to convert to Christianity. And these people must have been furious and frightened and scared. And so they decided, you know what? Let's make a last stand and let's put this back on them. So who was the first people that they attacked? They attacked the Christians, because it was the Roman Catholics and the Romans who have been, at that time, had for hundreds of years been invading indigenous parts of Northern Europe and attacking and killing and enslaving tribal, shamanic, Germanic polytheist people. That's why they came out of nowhere. That's why they were so fierce, and that's why they hated Christianity so much. So anyway, that's all for now. If you like this channel, go ahead and contribute. If you don't see the little thing up here, you see the thing down here. Contribute to the channel. Also subscribe, like. We're also on Twitter now. You can look at my tweets at @ThunderWizard. On Twitter, and please feel free to retweet, to share these videos. Help me get this channel really big and really influential so that I can get out as much of this spiritual information to as many people as possible. So that's it for now, my friends. Stay tuned. There's a lot more coming.